What is up, sports geeks? It's your host Josh here, back with another fantasy football video. This is first fantasy football video in a while, Alec. It's what is it? It's July 1st tomorrow.
Yep.
This is being recorded. This will be posted Monday night, June 30th. So it is July tomorrow. We are roughly 10 weeks from football, right? And so drafts are starting to ramp up here soon. So we have 6 wide receivers here today that are in the later rounds, right? So we're not talking, you need to draft Jamar Chase. Yeah, no one is going to turn that down, right? But we have guys. Wide receiver 27 is the highest that we have here in the ADP. And so I've got kind of 3 guys in that 27 to 40 range. I think you have some guys even later than that. Some great value that we think you need to be targeting in your fantasy football drafts as you come into the next 2 months. I'm going to go ahead and get it kick started here. Alec, I normally let you take the first one, but I'm going to switch it up here. I'm going to go Courtland Sutton here. So Courtland Sutton is wide receiver 27 coming off the board this year. And I look at what's changing from last year, right? And so you're giving me a guy who they're adding Evan Ingram, right? Who I don't think, yes, he had a great season 2 years ago with 115 receptions. Last year was not that Evan Ingram. And then you add Pat Bryant. This team did not add many receiving threats. And the way that Courtland Sutton is not a receiver like a Ladd McConkey, who operates primarily in maybe the middle of the field, right? Where the tight end routes are really going to take his target share away. Courtland Sutton still has the entire target share that he had from last year, and he was the wide receiver 15 last year. Courtland Sutton is in my opinion, bona fide wide receiver 2. If you're drafting him as a wide receiver 3, you have a great receiving core, and his ADP right now is a wide receiver 3. I don't understand that at all. You're thinking about a 10-man league, and you're getting him as your 7th wide receiver 3 off the board. That's crazy to me. I think he's guaranteed for a top 20 finish this year, as long as no injuries. The fact that he's wide receiver 15 last year, and the only thing that's going to change is he's going to have more chemistry with his rookie quarterback from last year. I love Courtland Sutton.
Yeah, I agree with you. I didn't realize he's going at 27. That seems pretty low for kind of what we saw last year. Really, Bo Nix didn't really start passing well till week 8, week 9 too. So we're gonna have a full year of Bo Nix actually being able to, kind of support a passing game. And really, Javonte Williams last year had, I think, 75 targets. So RJ Harvey coming in. Really, he's probably gonna get around that number, maybe a little more. As a rookie, but you're right. No one else is coming in to kind of take over the Courtland Sutton targets. So I love him if he stays healthy, which is kind of a concern, as he's getting older. But I love him at especially wide receiver 27.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So over to you for your first one here.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go my first one. I'm gonna go Ricky Pearsall here. I really, kind of reading all the tea leaves. I don't think Brandon Ayuk's going to be ready for the start of the year. Ricky Pearsall had 3 smash weeks in the last 8 weeks last year after recovering from that gunshot wound, which was pretty crazy for him to not only survive that, but also in the same rookie year have a game when he had 170 yards. But yeah, so I think Ricky Pearsall, he's going around wide receiver 40 now. Kind of where his ADP is. I'm fine taking him as a potential flex option. And then if he hits, he's going to be probably, with those San Francisco wideouts, he's probably going to be a top 24 to 30 wideout. He's going to smash his ADP if, he can actually stay healthy and Brock Purdy actually looks good again.
Yeah. No, I think he closed the year, his final 2 weeks, I think he was wide receiver 6 with those 2 weeks. And I know it's a small sample size, right? And you have week 18 in there, which maybe there's some guys that didn't play. But the point of the story is that this is a guy who got shot, 4 weeks before the season, 5 weeks before the season, and was putting up a 2 week stunt as the wide receiver 6, a 2-week phase. It's very positive. You're in the Shanahan offense. He's going to be schemed open, right? And when you have last year, you had Deebo Samuel there, you had Ayuk there, you had Juwan Jennings who had a great year. Right now, I understand that there were injuries that happened, right? Ayuk goes down for the year, but now Ayuk's not going to start the year like you're saying, more than likely not. Samuel's not even there, and Juwan Jennings is still there, but if you're guaranteeing me that Ricky Pearsall is going to be running a route on every single passing play as the 1 or 2 in a Shanahan-led offense, yeah, I mean, I'm going to take it. McCaffrey's probably going to have a bounce back year, right? The rushing game is going to be stronger. You're still going to have to throw the ball. And when you do, I really like Pearsall. And not even mention the fact he is a first-round draft pick, right?
Yeah, yep, barely snuck in. But and also if you look at any like NFL stat projection, whether it's Fantasy Pros, you can go on Mike Clay's ESPN stuff. Brock Purdy's supposed to be projected top 5, 6 in passing yards. So if Ricky Pearsall's on the field, I'm going to go ahead and take him.
Yeah. The 5, 6 in passing yards seems bold, but either way, if he's top 10, I love Pearsall. I think Pearsall will be the one over Juwan Jennings.
Yeah.
And so I think that Pearsall, you don't draft him as a first-round draft pick and then have Ayuk hurt and not have him as your clear-cut wide receiver one, especially when after everything that was troubling for him last year, right, outside of his control, I understand, but everything that was troubling for him, he still recovers and puts up good fantasy weeks as a rookie. I mean, yeah, I'll take that. What'd you say he's being drafted at right now?
Like 40, like around 40, just depending on what site.
Yeah. I mean, the upside of him as your wide receiver 4, if you're in 10-man league, maybe even 5.
Yeah, you could even throw Jennings in there if Pearsall gets hurt, or like Pearsall gets taken before. Like you could even throw him in there. Just like this San Francisco offense is going to be amazing. We're really regardless of who's in it's just the system.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm going to go to the wide receiver 36 here. And this is a guy who was the wide receiver 2 last year for the first 7 weeks of the season before he got hurt. And then in the offseason gets a 3-year extension after recovering from the injury, gets a 3-year extension, and not a ton of it is guaranteed in Chris Godwin. So Chris Godwin, I look at the contract, right, when that got announced, and I'm sitting here thinking, what in the world? There's one thing that this tells me. He's recovering 100%. Because if you're Chris Godwin, you don't sign that contract if you don't think you can recover and legitimately play. And if for the Bucks, you're not giving him a contract if you don't think he can. A 3-year, up to $66 million contract, I believe, if you don't think he can play. So I understand that there's a couple things going wrong here, right? You drafted Emeka Egbuka. Okay, that's a little bit of a turnoff. Liam Cohen is gone to the Jags, right? A little bit of a turnoff. But I believe that they came out and said that he's going to be operating in the slot and that he's going to have control over the slot. Chris Godwin is. This is a guy through 7 weeks was 0.3 points behind Jamar Chase as the only guy that was better than him in PPR. And he's being drafted as the wide receiver 36 right now, as a wide receiver 4. I don't know why I'm not gonna turn that down, right? And it's like we're talking about this. Take him as a wide receiver 3 or 4. He's your flex. Yeah. That's a flex flyer. You're getting a guy in the flex that could. I'm not saying he's going to get back to wide receiver 2. He could very easily finish as a top 15 receiver. You look at the guys around him here. I'm looking at the guys around him. You've got Jerry Jeudy behind him. You got Jordan Addison, Deebo Samuel. The route to them, Jalen Waddle, I think for them to finish as a top 10, 15 receiver is much more difficult than Chris Godwin. I love Chris Godwin, that wide receiver 36 value.
Yeah, so I understand exactly what you're saying. I could totally see Chris Godwin, being a top 10, 15 receiver. I think on points per game, though, I don't know if total point, PPR, like total PPR points, just because I don't know if he's going to be start and ready week 1. So this is also one of those builds, like I was going to say, if your team can kind of handle having Chris Godwin on the bench for 4, 5, 6 weeks until he's kind of up to 100%, and then he smashes for your playoffs, he is the perfect candidate for that. I feel like every year we have people like that, where it's like, if I can just get to 4-3, 5-3, 6-3, and then insert Chris Godwin into my flex as my wide receiver 3 or 4, then your team smashes.
Yeah. I mean, so I believe the injury happened. I believe it's late October. So October, I think 21st. So you're looking at 10, 11 months to the beginning of the season. You're probably, I'm sure right now he's already cutting, right? You're already doing everything non-contact. But like you said, it's game setting. It's a little bit different when you're running over the middle, when somebody's going to do a hip drop tackle from behind and you're a little bit scared, right? Which, by the way, this Chris Godwin injury was the worst hip drop I've ever seen, and I don't believe there was a flag thrown for it. I
Well,
want to.
it was at the end of the game. It was a pointless play.
Yes,
It was
yes, it was.
completely pointless. Like they shouldn't even been in the game.
Yes. I don't think there was a flag thrown because I think I remember seeing a video of it and saying like they implemented this rule. This is like as clear cut of a hip drop tackle as you can get. Like he's throwing his hip into his ankle and then cranking him down from behind. But either way, I love Chris Godwin. I completely understand what you're saying. I think I agree with you. If you cement wide receivers 1 and 2, like you get like a Jamar and I don't know, say like Courtland Sutton, or you get a Jamar and
Like a
somebody
Tay,
else.
like a Tay.
Yes, yes, Tay. If you go wide receiver as 2 of your first 3, 4 picks, I think getting Chris Godwin later in the 5th, 6th, 7th round is a great value because it's the upside is so much there, is so easily there. But I love him there. Who's your second one here?
Yeah, so my second guy here is Jayden Reed.
Mm,
I just love the efficiency of Jayden Reed, and I know he has the spike weeks. If you're in best ball, I really like Jayden Reed. Just because really you don't have to choose. Am I going to start him this week? Am I not? But even in a manual where you pick your lineup every week, Jayden Reed, he's just a good football player. And I
yeah,
know they drafted Matthew Golden. I know they have a lot of average receivers, not great receivers. But I really think Jayden Reed's efficiency is just going to keep up, especially Jordan Love last year got injured early. He was playing injured basically the whole year.
yeah,
He was kind of banged up. So if you tell me if I can get Jayden Reed around wide receiver 40 with that efficiency in that offense, like I'm going to take that
yeah,
as a potential flex play.
yeah. No, I mean I always make fun as a Lions fan. I always make fun of the Packers, right? Because I feel like they have like 4 wide receiver 3s on their team. But I think Jayden Reed is the one guy in that offense that when the ball is in his hands, he's electric. The ball has to get in his hands, and I think that's really clear cut, right? And kind of what we were saying about Shanahan's offense, right? How guys are going to be schemed open. I love LaFleur's offense. I hate playing against him twice a year because he's an offensive genius. He's very, very smart. And Jayden Reed is somebody who I also think that I look at like the receivers that they have. Like you have Matthew Golden, Dontavion Wicks, Christian Watson. I think a lot of these guys are similar. Jayden Reed has something that other guys don't. I think he's got the end around ability. He's got the ability to operate in the slot at a really high efficiency, like you were saying. So I think Jayden Reed is like the one guy that, while as a Lions fan, I'll still tell you he groups into the wide receiver 3 category. He is somebody that has a unique skill set compared to everybody else in that receiver room. So, and being drafted at wide receiver 45,
Yeah.
yeah, the value there is so crazy. If there's a little somebody that's passing, this offense is going to be good. The passing offense is going to be good. There's going to be a receiver here that is a boom, and you're giving him at wide receiver 45. I believe Golden's 43, 42. So, I mean, take your choice, but I would lean Reed for the lesser value, or for the lower value, but I think higher upside in my opinion. So
And one more thing about Reed is like, we talk about efficiency, kind of like that Debo Samuel type in San Francisco, where
Mhm.
it's not volume, it's more, quality. With these guys in the late 30s, like we're talking about 40s, efficiency. I'd rather have efficiency than like just taking a flyer based on athleticism or we're projecting them to be the one, but really they've never been a one. The target share probably isn't projected there. Like I'd rather take a guy who I know if he touches the ball, in a good offense, like he's going to produce.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love that. So my third and final one here is a guy who was the wide receiver 28 last year, currently being drafted as wide receiver 31. So similar range. However, last year he had an atrocious quarterback situation and is now getting to play with the number 1 overall pick as the clear-cut wide receiver 1. I understand it's Cam Ward, but Calvin Ridley is getting to play with it's a significant quarterback upgrade. I don't whatever your thoughts are on Will Levis. Will Levis was, I mean, they had games where they had like 170 total yards. Like they were atrocious on offense. Cam Ward may not be this all-star Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, even Caleb Williams type of guy coming out of college, but he's significantly better than Will Levis. And also, not even mentioning, he's a great extender. So when you think about just fantasy purposes, is he going to get sacked and it's going to suck for a Titans fan? Yeah, I would say so. But for Calvin Ridley fantasy owners, when you get a quarterback that can extend the play beyond 2-3 seconds and not just hand the ball to the other team for a fumble, that's what Cam Ward is able to do, is extend the play 4, 5, 6 seconds. If you give me Calvin Ridley to get open for 4, 5, 6 seconds, it's going to happen. I love the value that you're getting at Calvin Ridley because he's a wide receiver 31. Obviously, assuming he stays healthy, which if you're drafting anybody, you're assuming they're going to stay relatively healthy, right? Assuming he stays healthy, his floor is like wide receiver 30. Absolute floor, in my opinion. And the ceiling is what happens when he comes out and in week 1, he has 9 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown because Cam Ward absolutely loves him. Look at the guy that Cam Ward absolutely loved in college, right? And all of a sudden he's getting peppered with targets. And I just think that Ridley realistically can be that. You look at the additions that they had to their team. You have Tyler Lockett coming in. As a 32-year-old, I don't really think that that's going to be too much of a threat. Yeah. Alec Amenor comes in. You have the Xavier Restrepo, who I'm just talking about, right, as his favorite college guy. He comes in, but it is Calvin Ridley's the clear-cut wide receiver 1 in this offense, and you have the number 1 overall quarter pick in the quarterback. I think that you're going to be able to figure out at least enough to be a wide receiver 2. I love the value of Calvin Ridley here.
Yeah, no, I love that too. I think the part about Calvin Ridley that I really like, I could totally see him having like a Jerry Jeudy type season last year, where the receptions might not be 100, 100 plus for a PPR league, but the yards, I mean, he could easily have 1,100, 1,200 yards this year for sure.
Calvin Ridley playing an entire game with Cam Ward gives me a lot of hope that there's going to almost every, and I don't take this out of context, kind of like when you see Joe Burrow play with Jamar Chase, you're almost guaranteed to have 1 or 2 plays, at least one play, in which Burrow scrambles, Jamar gets open down the field because it's a 6-second play, and he's open for 25, 30 yards. I think that's very similar to what Cam Ward's going to be able to do with Calvin Ridley when it comes to just having 1 to 2 plays every single game where Cam Ward extends the play and finds Calvin Ridley open down the middle of the field for 20, 30 yards. And if you're giving that to me once or twice a game, not even mentioning the fact that I do think you're going to be behind in a lot of games and playing catch up, Calvin Ridley's the clear-cut wide receiver 1 here.
Yeah, I think Calvin Ridley might be the beneficiary of this Titans team still being a little bad this year. I do agree with that.
Yeah. But I mean, in my final point, it's the floor is so high with Calvin Ridley. It is so high because there's nobody else to take volume. 32-year-old Tyler Lockett is not going to be demanding targets. There's nobody that's demanding targets, and you have to throw the ball in this offense. It's going to go to Calvin Ridley, and you have the extender value there too. So I love Calvin Ridley as my third and final. Curious to hear your third and final, the sixth and final player here of the show.
Yeah, so according to Fantasy Pros, he's going around wide receiver 50. So my guy is Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney's way too low to be in the mid 40s or even around 50. I think Darnell Mooney could have a sneaky good year this year, especially if you're not in one of those more shallow leagues, the shallow redraft leagues. Darnell Mooney could be a solid flex if you're starting 2 flex every week. Bye weeks, I think Darnell Mooney could be a stud for you, potentially even win you a couple weeks.
Yeah, I love Darnell Mooney. I mean, the value there is absurd. It's especially when you think about like what he did last year with a rough kind of trying to figure it out year at quarterback for Atlanta. And now you have Penix as the clear-cut starter. You know he's going to be the starter. You have all offseason to establish chemistry with him. Let's not forget Darnell Mooney's a guy that when he played for the Bears with Trubisky and Fields at quarterback, there are several videos of him running like a double move where he's open by 10, 12 yards and is overthrown. And Darnell Mooney has always been a very good route runner. He just has never had the ability to run a route with a good, competent quarterback. And I think that now when you put him into this offense with Penix, yes, you have the outside run zone scheme. the outside zone run scheme with Bijan and Tyler Algier. That's very, very good. And that is kind of Atlanta's MO, right? But you have Drake London as a clear-cut wide receiver 1. We get that. Darnell, the wide receiver 2 spot is open. And Darnell Mooney last year was, in my opinion, almost asserting himself as the clear wide receiver 2. And Penix has the ability. We watched him have 3 receivers drafted in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft coming out of college. So Penix has the ability to spray the ball to whoever's open, sling the ball to whoever's open. And Darnell Mooney, I completely agree, probably will be the beneficiary of that. And wide receiver 50 is absurd. Absolutely.
It's absurd. Absolutely absurd. When you start looking at these wide receivers from like, it kind of just shows you how many good wide receivers there are in the NFL now. When you're looking from like 35 to 50, you're like, dude, there's no way this guy's 48, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it kind of gets to that point where it's like, I'd love to have that guy as a flex.
Mm-hmm. I mean, dude, I'm looking at this like, even like Josh Downs is ahead of him. That seems crazy. I mean, you're getting into like, I mean, even like Deebo Samuel. I would take Darnell Mooney over Deebo Samuel
I mean,
because
Darnell Mooney had some really good weeks last year.
yes. I mean, well, and the other thing is just that you look at Darnell Mooney is progressing in his career. Darnell Mooney is showing what, in my opinion, which let's think about what happened last year too, when you and I both had an opinion on this. In our opinion, Jameson Williams last year was going into a year in which he had showed a little bit of promise and was ready to take off. We said to draft him last year. Look at what he did, right? I think Darnell Mooney is kind of in that same boat of, hey, look, I've showed promise, but this is the year where everything's lining up. I'm establishing chemistry with my quarterback. I'm on a team that's going to throw the ball, and I'm always on the field running routes. Dude, it's setting up for Darnell Mooney to actually take off and have a top 30 wide receiver finish, which I totally could see. I love it.
Yeah, and you're drafting him as wide receiver 50, like
Yeah.
somewhere around there. Like it's not like this isn't like a hot take. Like
No.
he's gonna beat his ADP if he plays 16, 17 games. Like I'd put a lot of money on it.
Yes, I would agree with that. So no, I love that. So we have Courtland Sutton, Chris Godwin, Calvin Ridley, and then we have Darnell Mooney, Jayden Reed, and your first one who's slipping my mind right now.
Ricky.
Ricky, that's right. Sticky Ricky, if you will. Not actually, but yeah. So Courtland Sutton, Chris Godwin, Calvin Ridley, Ricky Pearsall, Jayden Reed, and Darnell Mooney. I think these are 6 guys that, in all honesty, if you could end up with 4 of them on your roster, if you had 4 of them as your wide receiver 3, 4, 5, 6, or 3, 4, 5, you're going to have a hammer flex play every single week. And we feel very confident in that. So, I mean, we love these 6 guys. If you really want to fact check us, check back onto last year's wide receiver video, because last year's wide receiver video and running back video, when we're saying, you should draft these guys, we crushed it. Humbly, we did do very well. I think at least 4 or 5 of our 6 guys outperformed their ADP. So I think this is a 6 for 6. We always talk about during the season going a 6 for 6. I wouldn't be surprised if we go 6 for 6 here, Alec.
Yeah, I mean, I during the season last year, we probably had 5 or 6 weeks where we went 5 for 6 or 4 for 5.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get the elusive 100% this year.
Yeah. No, we are elite. I mean elite at going 86.7. I think that's 5. In that 5 out of 6,
83.3.
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking my math's a little bit wrong there, but that's okay. It's summer.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day. I just had one of the worst golf rounds I've ever had in my life before this. So
definitely wasn't an 83.
No, it was not an 83. I only played 9 holes though, and I thought I might have been flirting with an 83. I mean, it was bad.
Yeah.
But no, these are 6 guys here that we think you need to be drafting, 6 wide receivers. Check back in next week. We have 6 running backs. We also have some more super flex quarterback value information that's coming out too. We're starting to hammer home 1 to 2 episodes every single week with guys that we think you should be targeting as we get into drafts. And then 10 weeks from now, Alec, we have 6 guys you need to be starting in week 1. And that's the fun part that we're.
It's exciting. I can't wait.
I'm stoked for it. But if you can't just feel the energy, we're just excited for fantasy football season to be just in the kitchen. It's in the crock pot. It's on hour 1 of 8, but it's in the crock pot,
Yeah, you got to get the we're getting the the pumpkin candle out. We're getting it ready to burn while Sunday ticket's on.
Yeah, the pumpkin candle. I thought that was a unique experience just for me. I didn't know that you also had that. So
Yeah, yeah. The chili's on the stove. We got the pumpkin candle on. The Bengals just lost 42-48. 42-48. Lamar just had 7 touchdowns and 462 yards, but
yeah.
it's all right because we got work the next day, which makes it way worse. But
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's hilarious. But all right, so these are 6 guys. We got to shut up here. But these are 6 guys that we think you need to draft. Be sure to check in in the future weeks for more. But this has been the Sports Geeks podcast. They play, we talk. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.